my cough will come back on.
All right, so we're here this afternoon. A lot of our clients are buying TaskCentre. We're recommending it a lot. You guys have told me great things about it, but I'd like to hear some real life reasons why you think TaskCentre is good. Who wants to start?
I can start.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I've noticed in a lot of my interviews with my clients is a lot of the new clients and even our existing clients, when they're looking at restructuring some of their business processes, I've noticed that they would like to automate a lot more of the processes than they have them right now within iMIS. And one of the examples that I hear a lot is if I have somebody register online, they automatically get an email confirmation saying that they've been registered and the information about their meeting. But if they do the same process within iMIS, that email doesn't automatically go out as a confirmation. So one of the things they would like to do is to automate that email as soon as I complete my transaction, have the email automatically generate and go to whoever's been registered.
That's great, because I have a client that has a new form on the membership application where they're asking student members for their advisors' contact information. But in addition to that, they want a process where if I am a student and I fill out this demographic information, then an email is sent to a third party that can verify, and that would take away from the staff having to do that manually.
Right.
Yeah, that would be great.
And somewhere in it, I think they all want to get CC'd on these emails that automatically get generated. So not only are they going out to the outside party, but they're getting a copy of it as well, so they know what's been generated.
Great.
I think that really the beauty of TaskCentre is the way it can combine a series of steps that could be handled by lots of different hands, and it can combine from either one single task that you can either schedule or you can fire it off manually just by hitting a button, and there it goes. It's probably one of the best, I think, extension products that's built around iMIS. It really helps people get more value out of iMIS.
What have you done for some of your clients recently?
Recently, a lot of what people have been asking for is just ways to notify their members electronically when their membership dues are up, and also to send subsequent reminders and track who has already responded. You can have it query the database and know who responded to the first notice or the second notice, and avoid people that have responded, and just hit the target that you want to hit. So you can build a lot of business rules into it. And not only that, but you can also do counts and send emails back to the membership director to say, this number went out, so that people are aware of what's going on internally.
So a summary report after the email system went out. That's nice.
So I guess if they wanted, they could see the list of IDs that received the emails.
Yes, they could. And some people ask for an activity record to be written to the database so that it's there for perpetuity, so they'll know on a yearly basis. And sometimes they want additional information in there. For example, they might want to know the email address that it was sent to, so that in case some people say that, hey, I didn't get this, they can go in there and verify where did it go. So without going to the mail server. I mean, this is, a person in customer service is not going to go running down to the mail server.
Debbie, what are some of your clients doing?
Well, we've done some things with our clients also with some critical business rules and some data imports. And the nice thing about the data imports is that you can step through the process, so you can get your exception reports in a good format and determine what to do with those. Add them into some temp tables to be able to get all of the data straightened out before you import it into iMIS and report on it.
So it's a stepped process.
As you're doing the imports, and you can see the results right away. So for some financial banking where we have to reconfigure the files, as they come from the bank, you can kind of step through it and you can see the exception reports as they go. The other thing I like about TaskCentre is for how many years did we hear people say, if it was this member type and it was this category, I would like to have this field updated. Or can you add a date so that we know exactly when it was updated? And we've been able to do some of those now with TaskCentre so that those critical business needs are maintained. And I think that's kind of a neat thing to do too. For example, one client needs their prefixes. They're military. They need their prefixes formatted perfectly so that when they send their letters out, so we can take the combination of 3 different fields and we can actually, format their prefixes. And since they're triggers and they're on the tables, the triggers recreate themselves. So if they should happen to get dropped from the database, TaskCentre can recreate them for you so that you're not losing those critical business processes.
That's key right there.
Yeah, how many times have we heard of triggers getting dropped? And without the trigger, then the data's not getting updated. And if we don't know how long and how much time has passed, trying to recreate that information is really difficult. So being able to recreate those triggers that may get lost, as you said, you can update to demographics is easy. Or just an upgrade.
I think it's easier too for us to be able to, for our clients to be able to create some of those queries. The interface itself, the clients that are used to using Access or something are able to create some of those queries that previously they, if they didn't write SQL, they couldn't really do those queries. So I think in some instances that makes it easier too.
It's got a nice visual.
It has very nice visual, like step in each step and then you can go backwards, modify it.
And the Boolean requirement so that you can say, if it's this, then go over here, take this step. If it's not, take this step. It's really nice. And I know, Suzanne, you created a lot of very complex tasks.
Well, it's really, the idea is that once people give you the idea, then all of a sudden you find more and more as you're going through the process that you can actually get it to do for the client. They might not tell you right away everything they need, but as you step through the process, they start coming up with more things that will refine it and more ideas that will just sort of grow and grow. And you could really create this thing to be as big as you want and be sorry that you did. But for the most part, it does do a lot. I mean, you can put a lot into one task.
So all of you were users of iMIS before becoming consultants of iMIS.
Yes.
What would you have done if you had this tool available to you? Where would it help you?
I think I would have been sending out pledge payment notices for fundraising organizations. I know that that's a very difficult thing to manage as far as fundraising. Definitely use renewal notices. That would have been awesome.
Definitely the meeting confirmation with iMIS.
Yes.
That's huge.
That's huge. And those automated reports, I want this on my desk, this. It would be nice to have, those reports just show up Monday morning and I didn't have to do anything except for initially set up the task. Would be great.
I'd be cleaning up all kinds of import files before they go into the database so that your vendors aren't giving you junk. You can actually make it look the way you want it as it's coming in. Even for things like member lockbox import, if you're using the ASI module, you can actually create it so that the dues products can exist when the payments come in from new members that join and send a lockbox payment in. So there's so much that you can do with it, in terms of just enhancing what iMIS already does.
Right. Taking it to another level.
What about being able to send information to third-party vendors? We'll run an export.
I had an example where they were outsourcing their meeting registration, and on a regular basis, they wanted to be able to make sure that that outside source had all of their members and information, so that they knew whether they were getting member and other pricing. Also used it for PAC. where they have a tax service, and so anybody, any changes to the records, any updates, any new records that were coming out, we would FTP it. So the process would be to select the information out of iMIS, whatever's been new or added, and FTP it over to the vendor.
How can this help web transactions? Are there manual steps that would make the web better by using TaskCentre?
Well, for my one example, with the membership application, it's going to make it much better for the site. Because it takes away a step where they have to follow up and do a mail merge or pull the data from iMIS and send off the information to a specific place. So TaskCentre, as the user is going through and joining the association online, TaskCentre is doing the final step, and the staff would take their time and be taking other resources for it.
And you can also set up integrity checks on the data when web users don't exactly put things in the way that you would want them based on your standards. And you could have it do some searches and build lists of new people that added themselves on, and they could be emailed directly to a contact person internally that can go in there and research and clean the records up manually if they need to.
And I think the other thing from the web transactions, there's a lot of things that we automate from the website that we can't really automate inside of iMIS. So now we can take that same automation through tasks, and we can actually duplicate those same business rules that we've implemented on some of the web transactions, so that they match they can make their workflow the same inside iMIS.
Well, like we were working on earlier, the stored procedure that we're going to use as a trigger,
Exactly.
where it's all pointing to that one stored procedure. So any logic change would be done in one place instead of all over the place.
So we can have the web transactions call that, and then the TaskCentre trigger can call that same stored procedure to make sure that the internal processes are duplicated the same way. And so we're only using one stored procedure to do that, and it's configured inside of TaskCentre to call it.
So do you all feel that every client we work with that has iMIS ought to have this tool?
Absolutely.
And why? What are some other things? I mean, if you had this tool in some of your other projects, how could it have been improved?
Even with the smallest of clients, and they could probably use it the most, because the smaller you are, the more one person's doing everything. And so it could really help that one person who's got to remember, all the different tasks that they're supposed to do, and a lot of it is just very repeated sort of rote things. And most often they're not really knowledgeable about SQL, but to have a process that would just sort of run for them, would be really, really nice. And then the larger the organization, the more complex all the business rules just start to get bigger, and everybody wants to get a copy of that report. Everybody wants these changes. They want the primary contact to know information and all that. But I just see, from the smallest to the largest organization, I can definitely see it being helpful.
And on that note, what Debbie just said, to have consistency from in-house processes to online processes, and they match. And that is huge.
Or even just, if you think about it, all the different steps that you might take leading up to an action in iMIS that could be managed by a task, so that it's one thing that needs to be managed. So if there's like turnover in staff, there isn't an opportunity for a loss of information or a loss of step along the way, so that it's all just in one place. It makes for continuity of business rules and integrity.
Someone can take a vacation. And the work continues.
Oh, what is that?
Well, one of the projects that I'm going to work on now next is actually going to be a client who every month has to go through and extract 8 files for her, I think they're divisions. And she has to extract them, clean up the data, send them to the division heads with all the data cleaned up in Excel format. So we're going to put together tasks that will actually create the files for her, and as soon as she's comfortable with it, then it'll automatically be able to email to those contacts.
And it can
So that will
output in
say-
Excel, correct?
So
Actual
it
files in
will
Excel format?
Yeah, well, I think it's a compatible format, so that will help her to be able to save, that'll save her probably 2 days a month. Well, that's pretty big. That's pretty big when you think about it. And so she'll just kick it off and let it run, and she can do what she needs to do, and they'll get their reports.